call the roll.
Councilwoman Flood?
Here.
Councilwoman Standart?
Here.
Councilman Morelli?
Here.
Councilwoman Wallowitz?
Here.
Supervisor Barrett?
Here. Okay, so just go through a brief budget overview. We've gone through this before, but no. So just some highlights of the budget. The budget does not break the tax cap or use surplus funds. 3% increase in spending over the 2021 approved budget. We remain without a town tax for 2022. The highway budget would increase 6%. The highway tax would decrease by 1% to $40.35 per home, and that is for a home with a total value of $259,000, roughly the average value home in the town of Clifton Park. The EMS tax would increase by 0.9% to $36.64 per home. Again, that's home valued, total value $259,000. As far as personnel adjustments, there were 3 new positions included in the 2022 budget. There's 1 position in the building department, 1 position in the buildings and grounds department, 1 position in the highway department. There were various investments in new equipment, vehicles, and infrastructure. There's also funding for a free curbside bulk waste pickup in the spring. So I know a lot of people will start calling about that in another few weeks, so definitely want to make that known. One item that we talked about before that was a bit of a challenge with the budget was the new Ballston Lake sewer district, and that's a rather large project, a joint project between the towns of Ballston and Clifton Park. So it's anybody that's been following that story, it's several years in the making at this point. Construction continues. They're at a point now where the people that are receiving the new public service, new public sewer service, and the benefit are the ones paying the bill. But the towns levy a charge to those residents over a number of years. And that's how the bill is eventually paid off. So as the tax cap is currently constructed, there is no carve out for new special districts and new levies that we have to account for in a given year. So when there is a new special district in this case, the money that is the total money that is being levied for our portion of the district counts towards the tax cap, and there's no provision to account for that. That just comes right out. Now it's a 1-year hit. I mean, next year we'll be at a new baseline that will include that additional levy, but for the first year, for the first year there is no carve out, as I mentioned. So despite that, we're able to remain under the tax cap. So anyway, I'm sure everybody's had a chance to review the tentative budget and the preliminary budget. So now we're very late in the budget process, which is a good time to have the public hearing, obviously, because people have had the time to review the budget over a number of weeks, and if they have any questions or comments, I would think that by now they've had enough time to bring those forward before we approve a budget for 2022 in the near future. So those are some of the highlights. I would ask our town clerk, Teresa Brobston, to read the legal notice as it appeared in the Gazette before we ask for public comment.
Town of Clifton Park, County of Saratoga, State of New York, notice of public hearing 2022 preliminary budget. Please take notice that the town board of the Town of Clifton Park will hold a public hearing on the 4th day of November 2021 at 7:01 p.m. in the Wood Memorial Meeting Room in the town office building located at 1 Town Hall Plaza, Town of Clifton Park, County of Saratoga, State of New York, to consider the 2022 preliminary budget, and any person may be heard in favor of or against the budget, or for or against any item or items therein contained. The proposed salaries of each member of the town board, the supervisor and the town justices, the town clerk, and superintendent of highways as set forth are as the following. Councilmen each, and there are 4 of them, at $17,170, supervisor at $106,483, 2 town justices each at $42,887, town clerk at $79,425, superintendent of highways $88,834, and that was in the October 20th Daily Gazette.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Teresa. At this time, we'll ask for public comment. If you'd like to speak on the town budget, please raise your hand and we'll ask you to come forward. We have 2 possibilities here. Yeah, that's you, Marla. Why are you looking around? You and Charlotte. So, did either one of you want to make any comments? Oh, okay, okay. Very good.
Oh, yeah, it's my turn.
Well, you weren't, you're the only 2 in the audience, so that's why I'm picking on you.
Oh, okay. So I'm usually up there.
I don't even.
Yeah, right, exactly. All right, general discussion. Town board, have any discussion points?
Go ahead, Dan, you can go first.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I'd like to present the town board with the with some of the information that we had discussed during the workshops that we had with the town board. A little information has been changed. There has been some updates, some changes after the preliminary budget that we had recently. So here's an overview. On October 6th and following days, the Highway Department presented important equipment, vehicle, facility, and processing expenditures, as well as an increase in labor force. In a meeting with various board members and the town supervisor, the preliminary budget was submitted to the town clerk on October 21st, with no significant changes to the Highway Department budget. While Clifton Park grows, the department has shrunk in employees. We are in desperate need of plow trucks, facilities, and a growing workforce to tackle the many developments we are taking over and managing each year. So this is just an overview, pretty similar to some of the things that we had talked in our individual meetings or in the budget workshop back in October. Really the only difference between then and now, I'm just going to go over them real quickly. Highway garage A line items. I'm asking for a equitable increase in my deputy highway superintendent's grade and step. She currently is the lowest paid member of the highway department. She makes she makes less than $10,000 or more than $10,000 less than confidential secretaries and deputies in the town. So I'd like to amend that. Another thing I'd like to add to the A line is special services line, which would allow us to hire engineering firms and legal services. Currently, we only have a $5,000 line for that. Obviously, we probably want to be reaching out to engineers and legal services during some issues because we can never be sure everyone's aware of the legal ramifications of everything. So moving into the highway item 1, 32 weeks, things are looking really good there. We do appreciate that. One of our problems that we have is a lot of materials down Gray Road. We want to take those materials, recycle it, and make it a product that we use, Buildings and Grounds uses, Water Department, Sewer Department. It's a shared material, super easy. Highway items, number 3, equipment. There's a good amount of investment in new equipment for this, but over the long haul, what we need are new plow trucks in the coming years. One of the major problems is that we are 18 months out for plow trucks right now. So we have to go 2 winter seasons without a new truck right now. Employee adjustments, establishing MEO positions to provide for our growing community and increased responsibilities. I'm asking to maintain the 1 laborer in the budget and like additional MEO positions. Like I mentioned earlier, our plow truck replacement. A lot of our trucks are reaching that 20+ years. I want to thank Tony for coming over today. You and I took a nice walk and saw some of the things that we're dealing with. And from what you saw today, those trucks got to last us the next 2 years. White building demo and reconstruction of a new facility. I'd like to work with the town board to establish a plan that would invest in the construction of a new facility that would add to the current footprint of an existing storage shed while moving away from the current dirt floor, wood framed white building that currently exists. So moving on to the employment adjustments, I think this is one of the most important things that's facing us. This is a real statistic. This isn't fake. This isn't made up. This isn't something that I just pulled out of the air. In 2011, the Highway Department DA line accounted for a total of 36 employees. So when I say DA line, those are highway employees. That doesn't count for me and anybody in my upstairs office. Now in November of 2021, we currently have 29 employees. This is almost a 19.5% reduction in the workforce in 10 years. While investment in new equipment and vehicles assist in making jobs easier and more efficient, we still need employees to power those and operate those machines. So I just added some more additional information asking to promote Ellen to a grade 6 or grade 7 step 3. I had asked for originally a grade 6, but even grade 6 step 3, she would go from the lowest paid deputy and confidential secretary to the lowest paid deputy or confidential secretary of town. With the new MEOs and laborer, again, new equipment's great, but if we don't have the people to operate them, it doesn't help. So I know one situation I've been dealing with whenever we get a new laborer though, I hire them as a laborer, I put them on a 6-month track to become an MEO. They're told this during the interviews, they're told this ahead of time, and they are well aware that if they don't meet the criteria that we set out for them upon their hiring, that at the end of 6 months, they are respectfully asked to resign. So we talked this, again, this is not a big change from the original. I threw in a photo there so people can kind of understand what we're dealing with. That large excavator, that excavator that's sitting on top of that pile is almost 5 times as large as the excavator that we use or Buildings and Grounds uses. It's sitting on top of what is called a spoils pile. That spoils pile is broken up and moved with the loader and the excavator and dumped into a recycling machine. That recycling machine builds a pile we call our shoulder mix. And that shoulder mix is great for backfilling trenches, backfilling shoulders. The wonderful part about that is all the things that we pull out of the ground from cement to rock to asphalt to dirt goes into that pile and we recycle it all. It's one of the most extensive recycling operations we have in town. So and it's effective and efficient and works for everybody. It comes down to about $1.71 a ton. You want to go get topsoil from Troy Sand and Gravel, you're talking about 58,000 tons. So it's very, very efficient. This has been presented to you in our original discussions. It just goes through seeing some of the price increases that we're seeing on a daily basis. Obviously, the supply chains have been greatly affected by inflation, by reduction in truck drivers. It's not a good place to be. So one of the two of the main things that we use are plastic corrugated pipe, 12-inch and 18-inch. It's gone from $4.49 a linear foot to $9.53 a foot linear foot, $8.58 a linear foot to $17.57 a feet. So we're literally got more than double the price every foot has increased. Other increases have existed in everything from grass seed, diesel fuel, risers. So we're asking you to maintain our maintenance line and repairs line at $85,000. So this was also a good standard. We do all the repairs and replacements, obviously, for the highway vehicles. We do it for a majority of town vehicles as well. Obviously, being limited to 3-bay garages, it's very tough to get everyone in all at the same time. Additionally, with older vehicles, maintenance is more frequent and costly. Finding parts is now incredibly difficult. We talked about the supply chain issues. That's really stressing our procurement policy. The one thing that did change in the preliminary budget, an update of, or an upgrade from $30 an hour for maintenance work to $50 an hour for maintenance work. This helps to not only kind of compensate the highway department for the work that's done on the vehicles, but compensate for a lot of the things that are miscellaneous items like greasing bearings and grease fittings, rags, oil, lubricants, all that type of stuff. So we want to maintain that increase for the parts and repairs line from 130,000 to 140,000. Just for some information, we did look at some. So while we're asking the hourly rate to be $50, Mohawk Chevy charges $129.95 an hour for gasoline vehicles. Computer flash, that's where you might have to reset the onboard computer for a vehicle. They have a flat rate of $190. Last year and the year before, not only did we purchase that computer, but we purchased the upgrades for that computer, so we can actually take care of about 90% of the vehicles that are in our fleet and in the fleet throughout town. You can see Zapone, $139.99 an hour for gasoline, $159.99 an hour for diesel. So a change from $30 to $50 in this type of environment, I don't think is a lot to ask. New equipment purchases. We were very excited about this. This is wonderful. It fulfilled almost all of our needs in terms of one-shot purchases. We're getting a new 20-ton trailer to better accommodate our brand new excavator that we purchased this year. Additional tilt trailer, which would allow for us to not have to trade trailers between our paving crews and other crews. We're looking to get another trip edge plow, a 9-foot trip edge plow, to help us not only with small cul-de-sacs in our camp roads, but in helping to clear our parking lot and some sidewalks. And the other addition is a new boom mower. Our current boom mower is just showing its age. It was purchased in 2003, and just like everything else, it gets old, it gets tired, hydraulics are breaking, it doesn't have enough power anymore. We just need to retire it. So, and then last but not least, working with the Green Committee and Joanne Coombs and Amy Stander, we're looking at a few different experimental plow blades and seeing how they're working. I know through the Green Committee, they're always talking about salt use. Well, the only reason you have to use more salt is because there's more snow on the ground. If you take more snow off the ground, you don't have to use so much salt. So we're going to start experimenting with mechanical/physical removal processes first before we start really looking at salt or brine adjustments. So we had originally talked about our plow trucks, plow replacements, 60 series. That's what we call them. These are the plows that were purchased at the mid to end of the 1990s and early 2000s. We are still operating with trucks that are 21 to 25 years old. I know they don't show the miles, but those are tough miles. 55,000 miles on a plow truck are tough miles. These trucks were purchased for the sole purpose of spreading salt. They have no other use than plowing and spreading salt. Our current trucks that we purchase are multifaceted. They're used for various different processes. These literally just sit for 6 months out of the year doing nothing. Any new purchases would be a more versatile instrument used for paving, material hauling, that type of stuff. So these are just pictures of more of our 60 series. You can tell they don't look too bad. We take pretty darn good care of our vehicles. When they start to rust, our welder and our mechanics begin chipping away and needling away and re-welding and repainting and repriming. So though they look nice, they're really unreliable, and they're inefficient, and they only serve one purpose. We had originally talked about truck 66. This is like if we were getting rid of some of the 60 series, truck 66 would be the last one we get rid of. It's probably the only one that's worth its weight. So I just wanted to share that with you. Truck 67 through 70, they're 2006 internationals. When we originally hit a crisis in 2006 for plow trucks, we took out a big lease, got 4 of these tandems of plow packages. Now you can see they're about 15 years old. They're getting up there, and they're showing their ages. The radiators are going, the fans are going, oil pans are leaking, gas tank or fuel tanks are leaking, hydraulics are constantly blowing. They're becoming to get to that age where they're unreliable. But the good news is that on the back end of that, we do try to keep them in good condition, and we have private residents come in all the time and say, "Oh my gosh, are you ever going to get rid of that truck? If you do, let us know." Where they may supplement the needs of someone who is hauling material 1 or 2 times a month. They're getting to the point where they no longer meet the needs of us plowing 6 or 7 times a week. So I thought we'd have some fun, and we would go. I know we were not all in the mechanic space. We can't actually get under a truck, so I figured we should get under a truck. So let's take a look at truck 61. So truck 61, in-depth review. Here's an example of frontline truck, plow truck, a vehicle purchased in 1999, and the continuing issues that are being remedied. In its current state, truck 61 does not pass New York State inspection. It would not be allowed on the road, but we'll continue working on it to ensure that it is ready once it hits the road, hopefully during the first snow. This truck is being welded together, it is being worked on, and we will not let it hit the road until it is finished and meets the specifications of the New York State inspection. Interesting fact, and Tony was asking about this today, New York State inspection licenses are on our employees, not on the town. So in order to maintain their inspection license and their credibility under the state of New York, our inspectors, our mechanics, they can deny passage, and they have denied passage of a vehicle in town of inspection and then take it off the road. So obviously we don't have a choice. We have to repair this. We have to repair this truck. So Dean and his crew are going to be continuing to work on this until it does meet Dean's inspection qualifications. So this first picture on the left, you can see a lot of corrosion. This is the box that holds multiple car batteries, vehicle batteries, that helps the truck run. One of the problems with this is that metal is so thin, they're going to have to rebuild it and make sure that those batteries don't fall out while it's driving. Now on the picture on the right, you can see some dimples up in the left-hand corner. As you start going down to the right, you can see some more dimples. Those used to be bolts. We cannot remove those bolts. They are, if we tried to move them, they would break. This is actually at the back of a transmission. You can kind of see where the drive shaft enters the rear end of the transmission there. Moving on, I'm showing you some pictures here on the left of the frame rail. You can see that in the vertical portion of the frame rail on the left, the metal flaking off. You sometimes see where, if you ever see a video of someone who's making steel, they keep folding it and folding it and folding it and folding it. Well, those little microscopic folds, that's what we're seeing breaking here. Those little, I think what we call it, like a puff pastry today, that little puff pastry look on the left, those are those little folds rusting and breaking open. On the left, or on the right, I wanted to send your attention, we're looking at the frame. This is the frame of the truck that holds on the cab, the engine, and the salt spreader. Notice how on the frame rail, there's a little bit of a separation there. That is what fails inspection. So what our team has to do is go through, they have to cut that piece out, they have to put another piece of steel over that area, connecting those areas, re-weld it, and then Dean has to inspect it, and once it passes his inspection and meets his criteria, then we can allow the truck back on the road. But these are some of the little headaches that we have to take care of every time we bring these trucks into the shop. I know Tony and I were looking at a weld spot today that they had just taken care of. It takes half a day just to get in there, shape the piece, mold the piece, put the piece around, prime the area, clean the area, and then finally weld it. So this is pretty cool. On the left side, we're not really necessarily looking at the wires or the air hoses, but beyond that, we're still looking at the frame. You can see this frame is this part of the truck is actually good. This is in really good shape. But you can start to see where the frame is beginning its path of separating. Once you start seeing gaps in the frame, then we have to disqualify it from the New York State inspection. On the right hand, you can kind of see where there's a brace that's being bolted into the frame. That doesn't look very good, does it? And then those lines that are going in, those are hydraulic lines. Now, right now, those hydraulic lines are okay and they're not leaking. But if you see the fittings in the set, like kind of in the upper right-hand corner, how corroded those are, if these lines ever do break, we have to remove that entire fitting. Not only the one that broke, the entire housing, remove it, cut it out of the frame of the truck, purchase a new one, which means that we have to order a part. That part might not be in for 5 to 7 days. Now we're seeing things where it could be 2 to 3 weeks. So fortunately, we're catching this now. This will be taken care of most presumably before the first snow. And we're repairing that. Once that is repaired, team will pass it, then it'll be good to go. But if this happens in February, this truck could be out of commission, can't move for 2 or 3 weeks, which means that we're down a plow route. So just another picture here on the left, we have an air tank. There's a lot of air valves that move things back and forth on a truck. That's the air tank. It isn't leaking yet, but we covered it in a fluid film that hopefully will keep the rust from corroding further. That's why it kind of looks a little shiny. We fluid film our vehicles at the end of winter and at the beginning of winter every year. So that's why it's got that little shiny look. We're not trying to touch it because we don't want it to pop an air leak, because if we need to purchase another air tanks are about 3 to 4 weeks out right now. And on the right, we can see where one of the braces into the frame. Lower left-hand corner, we were talking about the frame splitting. That is a perfect example of this frame splitting, and that would lead to a failure of the New York State inspection. Again, we're in the process of repairing all these issues, and once we have these issues repaired, then we're okay. We can move on. But this is what an aging fleet looks like, and these are the problems that we have to always deal with. So one of the other things that we had talked about were snowplow route size increases. I had gone through with this in the town board, but we have 2 members of the public here, so figure why not? We probably want to hear about this. This is probably pretty interesting. So it takes about 3 hours for our average plow route. Some are longer, some are shorter. We are currently in the process of talking about road dedications, and I wanted to talk about Truck 64's routes. This year, planned dedications are adding a total of 10.1 lane miles to a plow run that is nearly 13.5 lane miles. This run currently takes 3.5 hours. Increasing the plow run size to nearly 75%, we can assume it will take an additional 3 hours to this run. When broken up to other runs, it will have add an hour onto runs that are already 3.5 to 4 hours long. So as we take more road dedications, I think that the reasonable thing to do would be add more plows, add more plow routes, add more employees, so that we were able to reduce the amount of time it takes for us to respond to a neighborhood and plow that neighborhood. Some other things that I wanted to mention is between 2021 and 2023, I made a list of some of the subdivisions that will be coming over to us. These are, I know the lane miles don't sound like a lot, but when you take a tiny little cul-de-sac, and it takes us 15 minutes just to clean one cul-de-sac, and there's over 445 cul-de-sacs in town, split that up between 23 plows, now you're really starting to talk about real time. So moving on. New road dedications, a perfect and terrible storm. Without the addition of new equipment and new employees, the public will see significantly increased response times to snow and ice removal, while the highway department, among others, pressure developers to meet certain codes, benchmarks, and criteria prior to the dedication of the new road to the public's domain. It is important to remember we have a responsibility to maintain these roads. Additional roads dedicated to the town without the increase in vehicles and employees would delay and increase the time it takes to respond to snow and ice events. Now we are approaching a precipice where developers have fulfilled their obligations of the public road dedication process, and we will not be able to provide the quality of service to our residents that they expect. So I wanted to move into the results from the White Building fire. Currently working with Prime A Engineering to argue the true cost of replacement. We're hoping to get our check bumped up to a higher number that would help offset some of the costs to a new facility and building. Equipment replacement has not been an issue. They're going to be replacing our equipment. There might be a resolution coming in here early next year just to adjust some of the costs. Obviously, things that we bought last year are going to cost more this year, so there is a cost difference there. For the short term, we're working with Prime Engineering and should have a resolution to you by not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, of short-term storage options. We'll be doing an awning off the back to at least keep some of our diesel vehicles outside, or gasoline vehicles outside and under cover. Tony and I talked about that today. And long-term, we're looking to work with the town board to demolish the white building and the building 1 storage building to build a larger 4-season facility with additional amenities and offices. We need enough room to store 8 to 10 plows and pieces of equipment, and the addition of a dedicated welding bay. Obviously, our welding bay is kind of pieced together right now, and you can see he's pretty darn busy from the previous slides. So, storage and avoidable errors. In 2013, Highway Superintendent Rick Krupuk presented a plan to extend the current mechanics bay another 4 bays into the current shed at the cost of $260,000. This would have created 4 additional bays that would be heated and could be used for plow truck storage. In 2018, this project was reintroduced at a cost of $304,000 during the budget workshops and was not added to the 2019 budget. Today, the same project is estimated over $500,000, $500,000. Sorry, if we had originally invested in this plan in 2013, we would have not had the misfortune of having to scramble for storage in a new building today. With those open bays, we would have had space to put all of our trucks for the winter. So what we need to accomplish now, at least 6 new plow trucks, looking to pass a resolution ordering at least 6 new plow trucks at approximately $240,000 a piece. We will work to build the most economical plow trucks that can be used for multiple purposes. Like I said again, the wait time is about 18 months, which means if I ordered them today, we won't have them for 2 plow seasons. So what we have now is what we have. If it breaks to the point where it's unrepairable, we have to reduce the size of our plow runs, reduce the number of plow runs we have, increase the size of our plow runs, and I don't know if our residents are going to like that. Increase in highway personnel. Additional employees will assist in the growing responsibilities of roadways and stormwater while easing the pressure of absences during plowing season. Right now, because of our personnel, before we had problems where entire plow runs were shut down because one person was absent. We can handle 2 people being absent right now. If 3 people are absent, we're shutting down plow runs. Commit to a new facility. Pass a resolution establishing a memorandum of understanding or something comparable that would start the process of deconstructing the white building and storage shed number 1 and prepare for the construction of a new 4-season structure for plow and equipment storage, as well as a new welding bay. And my final thing I wanted to say is we need to be the best in the region. I know we are the best in the region, but we need to be the best in the region. While towns like Half Moon are adding employees, plow trucks, and plow routes as they grow, we should act similarly. As of now, Half Moon will be ahead of Clifton Park in snow removal game, and we need to be number 1. So as a summary, the tentative budget has many important improvements and needed funding. We are thankful that many of our wish list items have made it, but the department needs to work with the town board and the comptroller's office to establish a replacement policy for the 60 series plow trucks. The sustainability of our plow fleet is a necessary top priority for us and the town as a whole. As more roads and developments are dedicated to the town, combined with our aging infrastructure, additional hands are needed to start moving back towards traditional staffing numbers. Additional staff will also allow the department to increase the number of plow runs, thus cutting down on the time necessary to plow our roads. We must do the best job in the region. Someone said, if we rested on our laurels and stopped doing a good job on a daily basis, I sure as hell hope they would throw us out on our ass. I would. I'm asking for the commitment of resources to ensure we do our job, the best job, each and every day, and I will not rest until that happens. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dan. Clifton Park deserves better.
Thanks.
We are the best in the county. We're the best in the state. But what you just presented to us, I think if we had the entire town, all 37,000 residents watching this today, I don't think that they would think that we are the best.
They wouldn't think we were.
That's not okay. We deserve better. Our employees deserve better. Our departments deserve better. There's been a dangerous trend in the past 10 years of gutting departments, not valuing our employees, stripping
our departments from the materials, the equipment that they need, eliminating positions, and this is the result. What we're seeing, it's already, we're already seeing the effects of this with the residents. Residents are going to be the ones to suffer. We can no longer be up here and start boasting that we are the best when we don't give our employees, our departments, the tools that they need to work on behalf of the residents. That's our job. That's our job. Let's start with the employees. You mentioned your deputy highway superintendent, Ellen Martin. When we met with you, Councilwoman Walwet and I, this is the second year, by the way, that Dan is requesting an increase.
It is.
I hate to correct you, it's the fifth.
Forgive me, it's the
Sorry.
5th year.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's even worse.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
I didn't
okay.
mean to
That's
do
even
that.
worse. That's even worse, and my apologies for that. We can't keep ignoring this. Ellen Martin her proposed salary increase is only a 1.61% increase. Her salary is so low, it's embarrassing that someone with so much responsibility in one of the most important department in this town is making that amount of money. Honestly, a grade 7, step 3, no, I agree it should be higher, but I think that is commensurate with other positions in town with similar responsibilities and job duties. I am all for that, and I think that this, I would hope that my fellow board members would feel the same. Ellen Martin is an incredible employee, and we need to value her, and we need to, make sure that she knows that she is valued and that she is properly compensated for the work that she does on behalf of our residents.
Just one thing to add. Last year, when I really thought it was going to go through, one of the board members had asked me, well, where's the money going to come from? So I talked with, I'm sorry, 2 years ago, where's the money going to come from? So I had talked to Elaine, who was making a significant amount of money at the time as a part-time employee, and she said, yep, I'm willing to retire. And she retired, and I got a part-time person at a far lesser rate than Elaine was. We came up with a $19,000 difference that year, and she still did not receive a change in the grade.
That's okay. So you went from 2 full-time employees in your office.
Well,
So when
one
Elaine
full-time,
was
one
here,
part-time.
she was part-time and a half, right?
No,
Okay.
just or half-time.
Half-time. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. Still, you've got Ellen in your office and you've got a part-time employee. Okay. And then your staff has down 19% in 10 years. Your
19.5%. Yeah, back in 2011, we had
19.5%.
36 individuals in the DA line. We're down to 29.
Okay. All right. So for me, what I'm hearing, I think priority number 1 is a grade and step increase for Ellen. And again, I think a grade 7, step 3 is absolutely deserving. Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. The other thing, I think the second thing is, in addition to bolstering up your employee, your staff, Dan, the snowplow situation, I mean,
It's overwhelming.
it is overwhelming to think that if we bought a plow today, we're not going to see it for 2 more winters. That's frightening. That's absolutely frightening. Last year, that snowstorm, that record-breaking snowstorm, we had trucks in ditches. You were stuck in ditches for hours. We were at a standstill. We got hammered.
Trucks that we just put up there were the ones that were stuck.
Those were the ones stuck. Right.
Among others, but yeah.
I just, Clifton Park deserves better. Our residents deserve better. So I think, getting that started is a priority. I don't know if there's anything in the budget for left over from this year, Mark, where we could start that process for a snowplow.
Well, the interesting part about it is we need to talk about it, and we need to figure a way of implementing it, because even again, if we order, we're not paying for them next year. We're paying for them in 2 years. So that's why this is such a convoluted situation. I mean, these trucks aren't something you just pull off a shelf and plop into place. It's built, they're custom built.
Is that something with snow plows, Mark, that we typically get a lease for with plows?
We have, in the last few years, off and on, have leased a vehicle, paid for it through a lease, yes.
Okay.
Sometimes we have gotten multiple trucks at one time, or we've done one truck at a time and paid that over time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, right now, I believe we have just maybe 2 on a lease right now for the plow trucks.
Yep, 16 and 18.
Okay, and unfortunately, the one piece of equipment that the highway got earlier this year was in the white building. So, but we have received an insurance check from them, and we've paid off the balance due on that one right now. So,
and we're actually renting a sweeper to replace the work that was going to do. So
Well, that's the other problem too, is the sweeper that we lost, it's at least 12 months out for renewal.
Exactly, but we can't rent plows.
Right.
So I think, okay, so that is not anything that we're going to have to consider for the 2022 budget. But that is something that we as a board need to plan for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we need to do that as soon as possible.
Which one are we talking about?
Mark, as far as the leases are concerned, we have a running amount of money in the budget for leases, and as leases come off, more money becomes available. So where do we stand now as far as the leases go?
So I know, like, for the highway department budget, there is, for next year, excuse me for.
Well, it's 315 in the budget.
Okay.
But, I mean, as far as the current roster of leases.
I believe what we're paying right now for the highway is probably like 160, 170, because there was a lease that we just finished up paying for in 2020. So that one is gone.
Was the sweeper one in there too?
The sweeper is in this $315,000. But ultimately what happened is that because it was deemed to be no longer usable, we did get a check from the insurance company, and it was written out to us and the leasing company. Right. So what we did is we send it on to them. They paid off the balance due, and I don't know if I've gotten the check yet, but we should be getting $33,000 back for that, which can be used for more.
So we can add that to the lease line.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if we lease, we still take receipt in 2
So,
years?
yeah, so the financing of a lease is similar to a bond in the sense that it's not a traditional car lease. We do the financing. We don't have to go to a bond attorney to get a legal opinion on the bond attorney, but it's still a valid liability against the full faith and credit of the taxpayers of the town of Clifton Park.
Well, we've been doing it for many years because the rates are very low.
Right.
And you own it at the end of the term of the lease.
Right. We
So
put
it's
in
not like leasing a car where after 3 years you give it back and there's a residual value and everything else. You have to worry about miles and everything else. These leases, you own it at the end of the lease. But it does give you, the rates are good and it gives you a lot of flexibility on payments. So it's worked very well for years.
So if we leased, let's say 6 trucks today, we're not, how much are we putting down, if anything, or are we not putting anything until 23, 24?
It's typically, we don't put anything down when Superintendent Bull orders the truck. We don't have to make a deposit typically or anything along those lines.
The sellers only request a letter of intent and a resolution passed by the town board.
So we wouldn't pay anything in the 22 budget.
Correct,
Right.
in that respect.
Right.
We can do different things on the lease. We could potentially borrow the money next year, and make the payment of the lease due right then and there. And so essentially, in reality, you're turning like a 7-year lease into almost a 6-year lease because you're paying at the beginning of the year, not at the end of the year. Typically with that too, you get a little better interest rate. The last interest rate that we had was under 3% for a lease. So, typically if you go for a bond and stuff like that, yes, a 1-year ban, the interest rate is much cheaper. However, you do have to go to a bond attorney every year and pay bond attorney fees to renew that ban. So
Yes, well,
it's more
at least
expensive
you
that
don't
way.
have to do that. There's very little paperwork and it works good. I guess my point is, trying to, get a handle on the room that we have going into 22. Based on what you just said, if we take the 33 and add it to the 315, and then subtract the liabilities, there's money there that's
Available
to do leases.
For the sweeper.
So, yeah. So that's, so having that additional money in the budget, is good because it does allow for some additional leasing.
Correct.
So we can't pay for a plow truck in 22 if we wanted to, right? Because we couldn't take receipt of one.
Yeah, we're not gonna get it.
So it's just, okay.
18 months out, so 23. Yeah, and that's frightening. And that's,
We have 24 plow routes, so if we replace one plow every year, by the time you have to replace that plow again, it's 25 years old.
and you said right now, we've got an additional 10, how many miles of roads that you have
Well,
right now?
I just pointed out the new developments around truck 64.
Right.
10.4 miles, lane miles, going in around a plow route that's already 13.5 lane miles.
And your projected increase in road, You
It's
said
10,
it was-
it's 10.4.
yeah.
Just in that area. Obviously, we wouldn't pour it all on Port Terry in this tiny little plow truck.
No.
We'd have to split that up,
would be
but
inappropriate.
that means that other developments are gonna have to wait an extra hour and a half to get one.
So in addition to plows, you need additional people to man those plows. That's fine.
When is that extra 33 coming in, Mark? You have any idea?
We do have it.
Oh, you have it?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, you can allocate it towards that line,
We can.
since that's where it was coming from anyway.
Correct.
Well, that would be revenue for this year, not a budget item for next year, right?
Essentially so it's additional revenue, so it increases the revenue if you add it onto the budget, increase the revenue because it has to balance, so it'll increase the expenditure. So
Cash a check on January 1st, or?
it's different things we could potentially have the board create or pass a resolution authorizing so much that would go and, for the lease, okay? And that's basically designating part of the fund balance. And so then that would roll from one year to the next, almost like a purchase order does. It designates a portion of the fund balance, okay, from one year to the next, and it's not spendable.
So you had mentioned your hourly rate for repairs for town vehicles. Is that something budget related? Is that something we need to talk about before we vote on this?
Yep, that's the one, when I mentioned at the beginning, that's the one minor change that happened between the tentative and the preliminary.
Okay, okay,
That was the one change. They didn't add in the 30 versus 50.
okay.
So
Or
actually,
50 versus 30.
with that, I didn't add any in. It wasn't on my radar in a sense. So what I did is I included a revenue line for those funds that he is going to receive.
Mhm.
Essentially, sometimes what I'll do is potentially, if I don't need it, not include a revenue line in the budget, okay? And later on, you do get revenue, and then what I've done is use that revenue to offset potentially any expenditures that were exceeding other budget lines. But, so what I did for this one in the preliminary budget is put that revenue line in and decrease another revenue line because I needed to add in another a line in the general fund budget, and I decreased it by the same dollar amount. So in the end, the budget numbers didn't change. There was just a couple of adjustments, but overall, the total budget did not change.
So is that something that we, in order to change that rate, we need to do by resolution then?
When I first became highway superintendent, it was something that we were doing. There's a lot of things that were just being done that weren't written down. We tried changing some of those. This is one of those things.
Okay.
I think that's potentially easy enough is to include it in the organizational resolution saying that the highway will charge $50 per hour for mechanical related. You know, that way then the board has said, yes, we want to raise.
Well, there's a schedule of charges in there already. So,
And-
I mean, that's.
He could put
so
it in there. I don't know if
So
it's
that's where-
been in there or
That's where it should be.
But you're right.
There are things we charge other contractors.
But you could also just include that rate in that line. That's, that's is easy enough to do.
Your new facility. I don't know if there's anything in these conversations for the 2022 budget that we would need for this new facility.
Nothing really other than maybe within the next few weeks to months, just a resolution establishing the direction that we're looking to go. There are kind of three separate things we're doing right now with Prime Engineering. Prime Engineering is designing and then doing the bid process for temporary/permanent storage that we're going to be putting in right now. They're also developing a scope of work for the insurance company to say how much it would cost if we were to remediate the building,
Okay.
which would then add to the overall insurance claim that we receive. And thirdly, Prime Engineering is in the process of developing a similar building, obviously larger in scope and size than what Buildings and Grounds have gone through. So they're kind of working on three separate pillars all at the same time, with the first pillar that's going to be installed coming November 13th in the form of a resolution saying this is the scope of work, this is how much we believe it's going to cost, and we'd like to go out to bid.
And is that what you were requesting an MOU on?
And the MOU would be more of once we get all our numbers situated in the scope of work for the remediation, negotiate with the insurance company that if we were to go this route, this is how much it would cost. They give us a check saying this is how much we think it costs. So our time that we're putting in right now is saying, yeah, we understand that's how much we think it costs to fix this. This is how much we think it's going to cost to fix this. And the conversations with the insurance company have been very good. They're just asking for information and facts
Okay.
that they can hang their hat on. And then once we get that number, they would give us the full amount of that, whatever that number is, to go towards demolishing the white building, removing the storage shed and putting it in the facility.
Okay. I've had many conversations with Steve Myers. He took me on, both Councilwoman Flood and I, on a tour of the building. We've observed the damages. Steve, had mentioned the state that building was in. From my conversations with him, with Jimmy Ryan, who is a fire commissioner and has some experience in fire damage, talking with Dave Meager, I don't see anything worth salvaging in that building. I think that would be highly irresponsible of us to do that. I would very much like to see a new facility. I think that's what you're working on with Prime, is that as a new location.
Yeah.
And I'm in full agreement that that is what needs to happen. Sooner rather than later. This winter, you're going to face some challenges with your snowplows. Your snowplows, diesel engines need to be in a heated building.
Yeah, plugged in, yeah.
You just lost space for those plows. And so you have had to do a lot of juggling, rearranging, and you're going to be doing a lot more juggling and rearranging when we first get our first snowstorm, to keep those plows warm so they're ready to go. So I think we need to act sooner than later.
We're already planning, out of the 3 maintenance bays that we have throughout winter, we're already calling 2 of them for plow trucks to just be stored indoors. So we're down to 1 maintenance bay over winter.
Okay, so we need to fix that as soon as possible.
And what's the awning, or you said something about setting up awnings?
Yeah, so I said it's pretty much just a generic awning. So on the back of the, where our maintenance building is, our maintenance garage and storage shed, we're just putting awnings off the back that can keep plow trucks underneath and some gasoline vehicles underneath. As we're, like you said, we're jockeying things around. But I think we're gonna be able to keep most of our plows indoors. We still just have to hook them up to electricity. The awning is there to, we also keep a lot of gasoline vehicles inside during the winter. None of them are gonna be inside. So the awnings are just to keep the snow off them. Gasoline vehicles, you can just turn the key and they start.
Right.
So it's diesel pumps.
Having been watching the controlled chaos that exists when you are in the middle of a snow and ice event, I can't imagine the stress that puts on your department, having to juggle those vehicles around and try and make sure that they're all going to start properly to plow the road. So that's my opinion about the new facility.
The good part about it is we don't have a choice, so it's got to happen anyway.
Right.
Really possible.
Unfortunately, you did a good job with what you have right now. So my point is, we should not make you wait, so that next winter you have what you need, so that you can do your job and serve the residents of this town with what you need and focus on what you have to do with a snow and ice event, not with, jostling vehicles around. That's my opinion.
Have you done a structural on the 1-story part of the building?
The insurance company has.
And, well, I understand that. And look, and they're saying it's salvageable, right?
They are, yeah. I mean, if you want the highway department to continue working in a wood structure that's 80 years old.
Is there a way you could adjust the building in the short term so you can use the base?
No,
Why not?
because it's unhealthy to be in that building. There's carcinogens in the air. The wood and the insulation is full of carcinogens and smoke damage.
So,
You can't be in that building without wearing a mask.
but they're saying it's salvageable.
With complete remediation, we'd have to strip it down to
Yeah.
nothing.
Right.
It's
Okay.
not worth it.
Which that is probably an exorbitant cost. I think Steve said it costs a lot to take the smoke out of the wood that's already been.
Yeah, that remediation would not be worth it
It's gonna
for,
cost almost 3 times as much to
Right.
remediate it than it is the cost, the value of the building.
and I think we had estimated, I think it's older than 80 is what we had discussed.
A portion of it.
Yeah, I don't know that is worth.
The part that wouldn't be demolished is
Would be the
about
base.
80 years old.
Right, okay.
The part
Okay.
that is gonna be demolished is older than that, we just don't have records.
We're getting a remediation estimate, right? So we're gonna have the concrete numbers.
So the insurance company did the remediation estimate. And, I mean, it was more than double what the cost of or the value of the building was. But why would we want to, I mean, unless we want to treat the buildings like we treat our plow trucks, I guess.
No, my point is we have that estimate that we can compare to a new building estimate. Just like-
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah, I mean, I have the workup that the insurance company did, I can send that to you.
But we don't have, the other estimate from Prime, right?
No, not yet, no, not yet, so their
More
thought is that they're gonna come back with their own estimate in addition to the full scope of, from planning to bidding, to engineering inspections, to final inspections, what that's gonna cost, and we never know how really much that's gonna cost, maybe like $120,000 something. I don't, that's why I'm asking the expert.
Dan, you mentioned that you're going to use 2 of the 3 bays for storage,
Mhm.
only using 1 bay for repairs.
Mhm.
Spend a lot of time back with the men back there. And if you have 1 truck that needs parts, it's going to hold up the 1 bay
Yes,
until the part comes.
yes,
And last winter, with 3 bays and all the other vehicles with the town we were fixing, they were actually, well, I call it truck guts out on the pavement.
Mhm.
But you actually had parts of trucks out on the pavement because there wasn't enough room for repair.
yes.
So I'm concerned about your 1 bay for repairs. It hasn't been right for a long time, and I know you've been asking and asking, but is there any wiggle room in that? Can you leave at least another bay, or is there?
So we have thought about that. There is some wiggle room. Right now, our welder, Terry, he has 1 bay within the main building. That's his welding bay. He keeps his plow truck there. We are talking about removing his plow truck, putting it into the storage shed over winter so that we can open up a bay by the welding bay and try to prioritize if keeping welding in the welding bay and some smaller repairs in the welding bay versus in the maintenance garage. Obviously, if it's an emergency, we have to keep it in the maintenance garage, but we have thought about that, and that's what we're looking towards.
So the whole thing and needing all this extra space all these years also means that the other town vehicles from all the other departments that need you will be delayed,
Yes,
which is why you wanted it in the first place, Dan.
yes.
Yes.
So
Okay.
the betterment of the town, yes.
I would say I'm concerned about the routes getting longer with all your miles that are gonna be added to the new roads. I was in a snowplow last year twice, and it is very, very long to be there, doing that job for 3.5 hours straight. And I would encourage anybody on the town board who has not been in a plow truck to try it sometime. And to make those routes even longer is dangerous and not acceptable. And I was in one of those plow trucks when it broke. So that was quite an experience as well.
It makes you feel any better, Amy. I was in one when it started on fire.
Oh.
So
You win.
fortunately, the driver knew what to do, and I cradled the fire extinguisher like a baby. So right
So, I just want to reiterate about Ellen's raise. I think that is for me, again, her salary is just obnoxiously low. And she needs better. She deserves better. Clifton Park deserves better. That employee, that woman, she does a remarkable job for your department. And I would invite anyone who has not spent any time in that office, spend a day there to see what Ellen goes through on a daily basis. I think you'd be very surprised, very shocked. She doesn't stop either. She doesn't leave the job behind when she goes home.
Nope, she has a work phone. She takes it home with her.
Yeah.
If I have a personal emergency, she takes the phone. She's the one in charge.
And $49,000 for that is an insult.
Yeah.
It's an insult.
Yes.
I agree.
I think we need to find some money and give it to Ellen.
Thank you.
I don't disagree at all. It was probably when we brought Ellen aboard. She has done a great job, but I mean, if we're going to have that discussion, and we should, then there were other requests as well that should be also discussed.
Absolutely. We can start with Rose. She's here. Rose is another one of those employees that, I mean, she is a one-woman department in probably one of, you know, I said the highway is one of the most important departments, but your department is one of the most important. I mean, they're all equally important. I mean, what you do on a daily basis for this town, Rose, is unmatched. You are superior at your job. You go above and beyond your role daily. You stepped up during the pandemic. You come up with new innovative ways to serve the taxpayers and to help them in this process. And I don't think you're getting the respect that you deserve for the job that you do. This, I believe, is this, correct me if I'm wrong, I was wrong with Ellen, but I believe this is the second year that you have requested an increase in salary, correct? And my apologies for not fighting as hard for that last year. We were trying to save our law enforcement line last year, and unfortunately your conversation about your compensation fell by the wayside, and I apologize for that. But this year, I cannot let it stand. I think it's an insult to you, the amount of money that you are making. You have requested an increase in grade to a grade 7, step 3. And I think that that is commensurate with other positions, and I think that's appropriate for the job that you do. And I thank you for everything that you've done and for taking on new jobs or, you know, every day doing things that really goes above and beyond what your job description is. So thank you, Rose, and that's my opinion on Rose. Thank you.
What were the other two, Mark?
The principal typist in the legal office.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is currently a grade 6, step 6, and was looking for a step increase.
Which one was that?
So it'll be grade 6, step 6 to grade 6, step 7, right?
For who?
Is that what you're saying?
For the principal typist, Meg.
For who?
How much would that be going up to, Mark, if this goes through?
Meg,
Um,
6, 7.
the request was to grade 6, step 9.
What is a
Step
grade
9,
6,
yeah.
step 9?
So that would be $8,590 more plus Social Security and Medicare.
What
For,
is a salary grade 6, step 9?
I don't have the union agreement, the union matrix with me.
Oh, so Meg is a union employee?
Meg is a union
So
employee.
what percent is that increase
Uh,
from what she has right now?
She is, she is scheduled to make $63,336 next year. She's,
Should tell her to be a typist.
and the other one is my assistant has inquired of the possibility of another raise. She had asked several years ago too, and it wasn't
I would like
working.
that, okay,
And
okay, all right, so let's do one at a time here, so.
What was that request, Mark?
essentially, if we take, she's at grade 9, step 5, and you move her, realistically, what we'd be doing is next year she would move to 6, but I would suggest to move her to step 7 right now. For next
Steve
year.
Myers was also,
Steve Myers did request a raise. Lou Pasquarello requested a raise for Terry Cook. I didn't know that you had requested a raise for Stephanie, correct? That's your, okay, all right. But let's go back to Meg. So Meg is, for 2022, grade 6, step 6, year 2, 63. So what was the request for that, grade 6?
To grade 6, step 9.
Step 9. And
So
what would that
when I had
increase
looked
be?
at it, that would have been an additional $8,590. The increase for the highway superintendent is $10,483 plus Social Security and Medicare
For the deputy?
for the deputy.
$10,483.
$483 plus $802 of Social Security and Medicare.
But that increase would only go from 49,000 to roughly 58. I don't have the matrix for 2022. Is that correct? So that,
Yes,
so that would be 58,000. So then
if-
a highway superintendent, wait a minute, a highway deputy superintendent making $58,000, you can't equate that to
I'm not
a legal
equating it to
secretary.
anything.
I'm just
telling-
saying, but
I'm
you
just-
jumped in, Mark, you
I
jumped
don't-
in.
I'm sorry,
Okay. So
Councilman.
let's go back to Meg,
Okay,
please. So Meg is, okay, so the request made was to go to a step 9, to go to $71,836. If my math is correct, that's a 12% increase for a union employee? Shouldn't that be something the union takes up?
Well, we had an issue with that, a couple of years back, or maybe even last year. Part of the rationale, part of the request was whether that position should be a CSEA position in my office.
Okay,
And I had talked with the county personnel office about other titles that would implicate a removal from CSEA. And part of the thinking there was, there are times when she's conflicted, when things, union negotiations, other HR matters are in the office. There's a rationale that she should be a confidential secretary or
oh, so a title change, a title change,
that
okay.
would, the title change would implicate a switch in status from the bargaining unit, and that was a double thinking. Also, if you, I don't know if you have the memo in front of you, but
I have it somewhere.
the rationale and the number of things that she's doing with the technology, the IT, and everything else, she's way working out of title, and the CSEA ever got involved in that.
Is the union aware of that she's working outside of her current job description?
She has not made an issue of that.
She is not, okay.
just one thing too, is if she does go from a union position to a non-union position, the matrix is different. So it wouldn't necessarily be the same dollar amount. If you, the union matrix is higher than the non-union matrix.
Okay. So it would be a little bit lower then,
Correct.
okay, but still an increase nonetheless, okay. And Meg would be okay with leaving the union?
You'd have to have that discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's a big deal, I know we've had
That
previous,
may have changed.
That's a
in the
big
past
deal.
couple of weeks. I don't know.
in the past, we've had employees who have received more compensation for doing more work, and as a result, they left the union. Salaries staying the same, and it's my understanding that they've re-entered the union. I know that there are some union employees that have a problem with that. So I don't know if that would be an issue with Meg, if, I think that's a conversation that we should have before we come to a conclusion to see, number one, does she want to leave the union? Number two, if she were to re-enter the union, if she decided she wanted that protection,
Yeah, I mean, they're two separate things. They could be
There's
done one at a
two-
time.
yeah.
There were, the thought process was, if there's gonna be any movements, that was an idea that I did. And I thought about it, over the years. It has come up, a few times over the years. She's very discreet, and I keep that door shut when I can, and I don't have her type anything that's sensitive, but it's still, it's a conflict, with her in the
so she's
office.
really doing the confidential secretary.
She really is,
Yeah.
she really
Okay.
is, and I think from just an organizational chart standpoint, that the legal secretary should be the confidential secretary.
Okay. Yeah. No, okay, I think that's definitely a good conversation to have. So Mark, back to Stephanie. I apologize.
No.
What were you requesting for her?
So essentially, she's at grade 9, step 5 right now, which would be next year. $76,859. If she went up to step 7, that would be an additional $55,478.
5,500.
Right.
So what percent increase would that be for her?
It's about 3 or 4%.
Okay.
I think Stephanie does a fantastic job. I think she's invaluable to you in your office.
She is very helpful, and I appreciate having her here. Yes.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that. I think Stephanie does a fantastic job. I think that's another way of showing her that we value her. I mean, we're in a very strange time right now. Not just, you had mentioned material shortage, but we've got, no one wants to work. We need to hold on to the amazing people that we have. The skills, the experience that Rose has, that's not replaceable. It certainly isn't replaceable. We could never replace that kind of skill set for her, for Stephanie, for Ellen, for Meg. I really think that we need to step up and show that we value our employees. We thank you for the job that you do on a daily basis on behalf of the residents of Clifton Park. And we don't want to lose you. We want you to stay and continue to do your job well. So I'm okay with that.
I would like to add another, on the words consent. I would also like to add a salary increase for Animal Control Officer Terry Cook. Terry has gained an excellent reputation throughout Saratoga County for her work ethic and is frequently asked to train other officers throughout the county. She is highly regarded by law enforcement and the ADAs for her responses and her documentation. We have added Half Moon and Mechanicville on a part-time basis for her and her staff, and therefore she has to be expected to be in 3 different courts in 3 different towns. This adds to her time and also the hours that it takes to prepare the documentation and evidence for these trials. I'm asking for 1 step, and I don't have the 2022 matrix, so Mac will have to fill in the figure.
So that would go to $58,713
From what?
from $57,002.
What's the arrangement we have with Half Moon and Mechanicville as far as her position? Is it just we support each other, mutual aid, or is it?
No.
They're billed.
They pay.
No, we,
They do.
yeah, our staff does a great job covering for them when they need coverage. And they pay us per mile as well as a set rate. So, so the fact that we are providing that coverage is covered by the funds that we charge the municipalities. Thankfully, we have a great staff, and Terry's a terrific leader, and we've been able to help out other municipalities. Certainly, we wouldn't do that if it put put our department in a bad position to be able to serve Clifton Park. But we've been fortunate. We've been able to find some good folks, recruit them, and they've stayed with us.
Yeah, and talking with Lou, that was the first thing he discussed with Councilwoman Wallet and myself, was the exemplary job that Terry does on a daily basis. She goes above, all of our employees go above and beyond. We really are very fortunate. Terry is no exception. And she truly loves her job. It's part of her. Yeah.
She
It's
does,
part-
she always says, but I love my job.
It's a
that's
growth.
an understatement.
Covered in questionable things.
The stories that this woman has is no one would believe it. I mean, if she could write a book on the stories that
We
she
keep
has.
telling her she should write.
It's hard to fathom the issues that she sees on a daily basis. They happen right here in Clifton Park. We don't see it. We drive through here. It's a beautiful place, beautiful town. Everyone's houses look so nice. But then when you hear these stories from Terry and what she encounters, she's got some challenges. So, yeah, no, her supervisor is, recognizing
it's very
her
warranted.
work.
Well, she was very excited a couple of weeks ago. Twin Bridges was able
Yes.
to save a cat that was in a sofa. And as the sofa was going through their machinery at the transfer station, it fell out. Thankfully, whoever was working the machine saw it. They went in and saved it. Called Terry right away, and Terry went to care for the animal, bring it to the shelter, and make sure that everything was okay. Thankfully it was. But we talked at length during that day about the situation, and she was just so excited that there was a happy ending, because she sees many unhappy endings on a regular basis. Sees the kind of the bad side of what happens with animals and pets and so forth. So yeah, so that was that was I think her quote was something that these are the days that really make it worthwhile to do what she does.
And it's not just private homes she goes into. We've got great hotels here, and she's had some instances there as well. It's quite a job that she has. She does a great job. So I'm in favor of that as well. It's all about valuing our employees.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. Are we filling that third deputy town attorney spot? It's in the budget. We don't know.
I don't know that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Because we've been without for a year. I was just thinking, if we don't fill that spot, there's some money there.
I've been working with the courts, and we've been able to schedule a lot of things in a more common sense way. And so there really isn't a great deal of extra night work right now. There hasn't been since really the pandemic. The pandemic caused the courts to have to take pleas by mail. We've worked that out. We've reduced a lot of the parking enforcement. So there's not a great deal of activity at the court right now, and most of the activity at the court is generated by the department we were just talking about.
Right. Which you have been very helpful with.
We've been able to tuck that under our wing, so to speak, and just to pile on to the last conversation, she's very good at keeping track of a large volume of these unlicensed dog tickets. You gotta believe they're the least, you would think they're the least priority enforcement mechanism in the town of Clifton Park, but it's a statutory obligation in the Ag and Markets Law, and the reason you have to, enforce dog licenses is because to get a license, you have to prove rabies shots, and that is why it's in the Ag and Markets Law, and that's why she doesn't let it go. And she's writing. How many dog licenses are in town? Did you tell me?
Over 4,000.
4,000, and she's writing. I think about it's something like 12% of those folks don't renew on time, And so, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
and
well,
so
we
you
forget.
divide that by 12 months, and you get an idea how many tickets she's writing each month. And by the time I get to court, you know, there may be a list of 30 or 40 tickets on. She's worked that list with phone calls and emails and gotten it down by 2/3.
Right.
By the time the court appearance comes, and if she doesn't write the tickets, those people don't respond to her.
That's been a challenge.
So, but that's a long diatribe, but I think in terms of the position itself, there's not a lot of night work, and I'm happy to go over there, you know.
Okay, so that was my next question, was you have taken on that responsibility.
Yeah, I'm happy, and the judges and the staff, the court staff have, and the county clerks, because there's a piece of this for them, county clerks and the county attorney's office have devised, and the three of us have devised a mechanism to deal with these scofflaws for the unlicensed dogs, and it's high volume. But no, I don't think there's not a lot of night work over there anymore.
Okay.
At this stage.
Okay.
Is there any chance of that changing? If, you know, I don't think it's gonna change while we're still dealing with COVID and its negative effects, obviously, but is there any chance of that changing somewhere down the road?
Always possible. It's always possible. I don't see it on the near-term horizon, but I don't know.
So that's very definitive, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see it in the near term. I don't see. I mean, the one thing we've really eliminated a lot of is the parking tickets, and I think that's been a smart move. So if that changes, you know, that's a volume driver if that kicks back up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only $8,000.
Right. So I mean, that could offset some of the
One of the raises that we
Yeah,
had.
discussed tonight. Yeah, so,
Does it make sense to maybe split that in half for the year to leave some money in the event that the court volume does increase post-COVID?
I think if we're gonna, because it's such a small amount of money, I think if we're going to do it, we should probably utilize all of it. It's my recommendation.
Yeah, I don't see any need in 22.
Yeah. If we have to put it back in for 23, then.
Mark, I have a question in community services. It's line A4010-140. This was presented to us with Lou. And I asked him, special projects, $10,000. I said, what is it?
Anything you want it to be.
So it's there for,
Special.
It's there for,
do we use it?
uh,
What do we use it for?
back in the olden days when someone said, where can I find some money? And I would use that line to tell them to use that money. I actually am using that line for Monday night for the additional lights on over by Wall Street. That's approximately $6,800.
I think we use that to buy speed signs at one point too.
Might have used it,
Yeah.
you know, it's been historically about $10,000, and sometimes it's been used and sometimes it has not been used.
Oh.
Mm.
And I have a question on law enforcement. Now, I know we had endless conversations last year about that line, and so right now we have budgeted for 2022, $599,000.
Correct.
That is strictly for the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department, correct?
It is for the Saratoga County Sheriff's patrols. The
Right.
projected amount is probably $7,000 or $8,000 to $7,000 to $10,000 less than what is in that line. I also use that line for some expenditures over at the public safety building for the New York State Police.
Right, okay. And that, I was gonna ask for clarification on that too. And that was, as you well, remember from last year, was part of the discussion. I mean, where was that money coming from and why would we cut it? Where's it, how are we gonna pay for those improvements that we did? So
Right.
thank you for clarifying that. So the sheriff's budget is I'm assuming the contract negotiations will be his typical increase.
The supervisor would have a better idea on that. It's historically been about 2%.
Yeah, it goes up every year. Yep.
Yes.
Right. Well, it was almost cut last year, so, want to make sure that there are no cuts for the sheriff this year.
I know, no proposed cuts whatsoever.
You did last
No.
year.
No.
Yeah, 30% cut in patrols in the town of Clifton Park, from 28 patrols down to 21. That was part of what you were trying to do, with your,
No.
yes.
No, actually not.
The sheriff was very happy when we had saved his contract and maintained patrols and did not slash his budget by 30% so that he could maintain 28 patrols as opposed to 21 patrols. So just want to make sure that the sheriff's not going to try and be cut again this year. So thank you.
Okay, any other discussion?
So I just
All right.
want to make sure that we have a conversation with Meg before committing to anything for the next conversation. Do you mind if I reach out to her and talk to her? Okay, good, thank you. I guess maybe one thing I also that I would like to bring up is we had a meeting yesterday with portions of the IT committee. Those that were responsible for looking through the proposals of the various companies that we had interviewed or that had presented to us. We narrowed it down to 4. We went through those presentations. We decided, I think it was unanimous, Amy, that there was one that really could serve our needs the best way possible. So the IT committee will be meeting soon to get the committee's approval to recommend that particular company for future purchase with, to present that to the town board. So new software. So those numbers, is that something that we will need to get to you before we make any decisions with this budget? Is that something we can pull from unassigned?
Well, I know that
How is that going to work?
John has mentioned that ARPA funds could be used for that software if you guys, if the board is willing to do that.
And that's been part of our discussion.
It has.
To use that fund.
Outside of that, you could always make a budget adjustment, a resolution budget adjustment this year, next year.
If we decide not to use ARPA,
If you decide not to use ARPA funds, correct?
okay,
Okay.
because we're close. So I just didn't know if we would be close enough to get it into the budget.
What's the ballpark number?
Roughly $100,000 for the initial purchase of the software, but I don't remember the exact what it was for on a yearly basis. I don't have that off the top of my head. Once it comes out of IT, I will certainly present that to everyone for consideration. But it was a fair. There were some much higher. There were some that were lower and not even worth anything. So
And even
it's a fair amount.
that's code, that includes the code enforcement software?
Yes, it does. So that would cover planning department, building department, and the assessor's department, and it would also serve the highway department for their needs as well.
But not Parks and Rec?
No, Parks and Rec is a whole different animal, which,
But that's being looked at also or not?
well, I've asked.
Okay.
I haven't gotten a report yet. So, hopefully the IT committee, I know there's been some other issues from other department heads that have been brought to our attention to tackle with the IT committee. Again, I had requested a report from Parks and Rec Department. I have not received that yet, so that's going to have to be put on hold until I do receive that report. So we might be moving on with other software technology needs until we can get that report. But as soon as we get the information and the specifics, we'll certainly provide that to everyone for their consideration. But what we did look at, it was really, I think, to see Steve Myers excited
About technology.
is it's a sight to see. Walter was quite excited as well. So this software really is going to help these departments do their job more efficiently and ultimately be able to serve Clifton Park residents better and more efficiently, and they can do their jobs better. So it really is kind of an exciting prospect. So no rush on that. Their municity is still good for till next year, I believe. A few more months anyway, right?
My understanding is that next year it will be no longer supported.
Right,
So
right.
at
So
some point next year.
Yeah, so we're ready for that.
Right.
We're ready for
Yes, we are.
that. So, and that's exciting, and that makes them happy, so.
Mark, I have a question for you. When we met with Buildings and Grounds, I know Dan Clemens had said that we had brought up the blacksmith shop and just securing it so it doesn't fall down on us. He said we should set aside a little bit of money for possibly getting an engineer's report or just being able to stabilize the building. Is that anywhere in this for next year?
We could potentially use, I believe there's, let me just see, okay.
We've had that looked at in the past.
Yeah. Well,
So we have $50,000 in just regular general engineering.
Okay.
And over the past years, we have not used all of that. Like, for example, in 2020, we budgeted 50,000 and we used 30,000. In 2019, we used 34. So there is also money available for engineering, other engineering projects in there. The engineering line is a generic engineering line that can be used for different things. It's not specifically just for helping the planning board do all of the engineering on the outside type of thing.
Yeah, I know Steve and Mark were just up in the roof and examining that and trying to get numbers together to see how we can minimally stabilize the building, so more to come.
It's in rough shape.
That is
Very rough.
very rough, my goodness.
Dan, just real quick, the legal services, is that something on your A-line items? Is that something we always do, or is that,
Nope, never done before.
what is the thought there? Are we outsourcing?
I don't think it's authorized. I don't think they can have a separate council. I'll have to check on that.
Specialized services are allowed by any department. I am allowed to go look for alternative counsel in the event that is needed.
Let's take a look at that. I'm not sure it's authorized.
But it's also, that line is also engineering, right?
Mhm.
So for the budget purposes, that's fine, but you would need a resolution anyway.
Still,
If you
yeah,
were-
I still would
If
need a
you were looking for
resolution.
outside counsel, and that's the time you would look at, I guess you would have to research what the actual need was.
First I've heard of it, so I don't really know anything about it.
Public speaks.
It's time, Marlis.
When do you vote on this stuff?
I already gave you a shot, Mark. No, you don't get to.
6 hours ago.
You don't get, oh. Now we're in change.
When do you vote?
We passed the budget, on the, let's see, what's the date today?
It must be passed by
Must be
November
passed by the
20th.
20th, so that would be the
20th.
November 15th meeting.
Okay. If it's not passed by
9,
20th,
16, so 16,
And
then the tentative budget becomes the budget.
no, 15.
So Correct, it's the 15th is the third meeting of the month.
Right.
Let's get going, guys.
Well, what, do you got somewhere to go? All righty. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Smaller? Well, I'd say we'll close the public hearing. If you're done.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Yes, why not?
Okay.
Just to make sure.
Just to make you happy.
Just to be, oh, yeah, I'm not gonna take that away from you.
Thank you.
Who's gonna second? Councilwoman Flood? Yes. Councilwoman Stander? Yes. Councilmember Rowley?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz? Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, thank you. Too bad, Miles.